If you're like me or most of our listeners, you're obsessed with finding an edge for your streaming strategy. One of my favorite ways to find that edge for state of streaming is through the tools and data from our friends at Looper Insights. So I asked them to put together a suite of the best stuff just for you. You can get it. Visit mystreamingvalue.com to compare the value of CTV home screens, which space is worth the most, what makes Roku so valuable that Fox is willing to pay $22 billion for it. Find out at mystreamingvalue.com. And thank you to our friends at Looper Insights for making all of these resources available. Now, time for the episode. Why is Fox prepared to spend $22 billion for Roku? What does it mean that Walmart acquired Vibe.co? And who the heck is going to buy NBCU? What's going on with Comcast? Welcome back to the State of Streaming podcast. I'm your host, Tim Rowe. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and follow along wherever you're listening or watching the podcast. Because today I'm sitting down with Justin Ruiss from BWG Global, who leads all of their media insights. Justin is a wealth of knowledge, and specifically his day is spent inside this industry in a very intimate way with context from other verticals. So really you're getting a synthesized perspective on why Justin thinks these deals matter and a whole lot more. Enjoy. Justin Ruiss, BWG Global, thank you for joining us. In a word, can you tell us who BWG Global is? Like, what problem do you solve and who do you solve it for?
One word. Insights, right?
That's insights. That's a good word. That is the word.
It's an overused word. It's used too much.
Why?
Because we have so many insights and everybody has insights to share. Off to a good start. What we do, BWG Global, we are a primary research firm, which means we talk to folks within respective ecosystems live on either forums or through concentrated interviews to garner different types of insights and opinions and learnings about these respective different sectors or industries, etc. I cover the media, e-com, and leisure and entertainment industries. So we talk to a number of different brands or agencies, all the way down to, movie theater operators, theme park operators, to garner a lot of these rich insights and supply information back to either the investment community or other types of clientele that are out there.
So you're like front lines, intelligence collecting, getting it right from the source. It's really deeper than like a headline. Is that fair?
Yeah, very much. And the way that we do it, the way that we collect all of this is through 1 hour Q&A sessions, either one-on-one with industry executives or experts, or we do it in a forum setting, which is one of the way more popular settings that we do it in, where we'll talk to maybe 5 to 7 different people over the course of an hour about what's going on, and industry folks can sign up and listen, network, and grab as many insights and download as much as they can as possible on one of those sessions. I host about 30 of them a month. I guess Jeopardy's next for me. I don't really know what the next step is, but game show host would be nice.
Yeah, that would be a natural stepping stone for you.
I think we could probably have our own like BWG game show and then just quiz people.
Well, today's going to be a warm up for that because I've got 3 recent deals that I'm going to pick your brain on. We're going to talk about the Walmart Vibe.co acquisition. We're going to talk about Comcast spinning out NBCU and Peacock. And then we're going to talk about everyone's favorite news, Fox and Roku, why it makes so much sense. I think what's interesting still about that is even though the news is a few weeks old, seems like there's an opportunity to fill a knowledge gap there. So
yeah,
I'll pick your brain on that, but thank you for the primer on BWG Global. It sounds like you get to talk to a lot of interesting people and create and cover a lot of interesting different content. What's the most exciting part of that for you?
Every day is a different conversation.
Ooh, that is fun.
Sports programming this morning, I'll be talking to travel and leisure people about corporate travel trends this afternoon. Tomorrow is, e-commerce activations and platform preferences. And later on this week is paid media and programmatic. So every day is a new conversation, and you're the tip of the arrow of information flow. So it's great to hear all of this stuff live and be able to react as quickly as possible. And it's just funneling all this information in and figuring out what to do.
We're going to get into these headlines in a second, but you must see some interesting through lines across all of that. Do you want to tease what's like an interesting insight, a theme that you've seen across all of those different industries?
It's fun. It is funny because it actually I think it bleeds into the conversation that we're having, that we will have, but you're still seeing a lot of the ad dollars accumulate and grow as a piece of the entire pie, right? The entire pie is growing. It's getting expansive. And you're seeing all of these different types of media channels come to the forefront with more than the average value offering that something like, traditional search or social has. And it becomes conflicting in that you have to figure out how to execute these media plans as best as possible. OpenAI now has an advertising channel associated with it. Walmart's advertising channel is getting up and running and extremely competitive. Amazon has been there for quite some time, getting competitive as well. And you have all of these massive gravity wells of ad dollars performing incredibly well, and now creating a point of, well, where should I be executing the best so that I can get the best returns? And a lot of times it's a healthier mix, and it's a more prolific way of looking at the media space, because you want to be able to do as much damage on the brand side. You want to be able to funnel as many people down on the performance side, and all of this stuff coexists in a really nice way. And some people can get very lost in the weeds, and they can get very siloed in their own media planning journey. But when you zoom out and you look at the entire picture, you understand you're starting to see more of these things that are newer fitting into the funnel really nicely. And it creates this very interesting, more evolutionary point where the media buying journey, or just the media deployment journey, is going, which I think is really cool. Like, you're starting to see like Reddit being this channel that's become so powerful in many brands' conversations and their journeys, and the authenticity that comes alongside the conversations that happen on that platform. It's really cool stuff.
It really is. I was catching up with our friend Greg at Player Driven earlier, and we were chatting about the size of the Xbox addressable audience and how that's on par realistically with someone like a Netflix. And then when you think about that audience, and he had made such a great point about, when you're on a gaming console, you don't have your phone in your hand. You have the controller in your hand. Like, so now we're into the conversation about audience durability, quantifying attention, something that we were chatting about, obviously, earlier in this conversation. We'll continue to. So let's zoom out for the media planner that maybe is on their own journey, trying to make sense of a few of these headlines. I'm going to pull some content up on screen here. The first one that I want to talk about with you, Justin, is the Walmart and Vibe acquisition. Why did this deal matter? Why did it matter to Walmart? What does it all mean?
A lot of this comes down to, where Walmart was, I believe it was 2 years ago when they bought Vizio, right? And you're looking at a retailer getting involved with a TV manufacturer and potentially an ad network, and then really taking that to the next level, right? And that was something that was always viewed by the industry as a really positive type of thing. A lot of concerns about whether or not, Walmart would push somebody like Roku out of the picture and basically say, well, we only sell Vizios now, but that didn't happen. And Walmart's pretty agnostic to, any of that kind of stuff. You can sell it in Walmart, right? So it's all good. This becomes an interesting play because now they have a technology partner that helps them execute across their owned and operated and across their CTV platform. Now, Does this mean that these things are going to start to materialize in-house outside of something like Walmart Connect, which is powered by the trade desk? Signals could move there, and some folks do get concerned that, the tides are shifting and all of these things are moving to like in-house technologies. If you adhere to what everyone always says, Walmart's chasing Amazon, right? They're chasing them in every instance, and they've caught up in some pretty unique ways, right? They're effective at delivery. They're effective at, their in-store promotions and really competitive on all those different types of avenues. But in-housing their own ad tech technology, sort of like what Amazon DSP is, could be one of those tide-turning moments that puts them in real competitive running with someone like Amazon. And that's maybe an internal conversation of, keeping the fees to themselves instead of having that margin get split with another provider. I think one of the things that some people sleep on is the fact that they've activated Yahoo and their DSP. They're tapping into Magnite. They're really spreading out their inventory and their buying capabilities across many different avenues. And I think that tiered level of service where it's white glove, top data, their own DSP, somebody else maybe white labeling it, allowing for a different level of service to exist there, and then having just the inventory available on other types of platforms that may come with your own data, or maybe some kind of cleaner and technology that helps you build your own audiences off that exists. And it becomes a, good, better, best model for advertising capabilities. But those are the reads that we typically get on that. And the vibe.co is sort of, it's not a canary in a coal mine, but it's a signal that I think there's more to come on the horizon from them. And that they're Vizio was maybe them getting serious. Vibe is way, like, forget serious. They are, gritting their teeth and ready to tackle into the competition.
Agreed. Our read is similar on the situation. It takes and really completes a full stack for Walmart, and the conversations that we're having with ad tech leaders, it's how can you get my creative to the supply in as few hops as possible, and then pump the data back into my own reporting UX UI. I want the data to come back to me in an owned and operated fashion. It is not dependent necessarily on the technology accessing the inventory as much as it was maybe historically. So exactly, that Walmart exclusive once with the trade desk has now become a more ecosystem play. Great read. We love it. Walmart making moves in the space, which I think is really interesting. We talked about Xbox there for a minute. 30 million active households, Walmart 90. If you put Prime at 88, 89 million, that kind of starts to give you a sense of the universe that we're really talking about here.
Yep.
So it's all about addressable. It's all about who has the audience, who has the best story. Speaking of stories, let's talk about Comcast. Comcast has been making news really all year. I think Comcast is just another powerhouse company in the space. They spun out Versant earlier this year. Versant making a lot of interesting moves. I think that they're not properly assessed as the company that they are, but most recently spinning out NBCU and Peacock. So did you have that on your radar? Did you see NBCU and Peacock being spun out from Comcast?
I stopped keeping a bingo card a long time ago. It's not worth it at this point.
No
I
kidding.
keep buying them and then I keep throwing them out for some reason. No, I didn't see this. I think I think transparency wise, it's great. Less clutter within that ecosystem signifies more amplification and visibility on their media businesses, right? And you can kind of get more, we'll see more in the quarterly filings how these things actually perform instead of under the umbrella of a conglomerate, right? Which is great. So I'm really happy about that aspect of it. I think a lot of the opportunity that exists on this one, at least the read that I've been hearing about, is, freewheel becomes the crown jewel in a lot of what they're trying to accomplish on that side. And that's good because I think Freewheel still continues to be independent. If you think about Freewheel getting picked up and then Vibe getting picked up, it's almost like one looked like a steal. So it puts them in a very interesting position to be able to execute. And I think pure play, if you look at their opportunity on the CTV side, CTV continues to grow. There's still plenty of bleed left on the linear side, shift over to CTV. Budgets are still materializing for connected. So it's puts them in a very good position to capitalize on so many of these rich ad dollars that are flowing into that medium, which I think is really good. And, maybe in this divorce, one side looks a little bit better than the other. I can't speak to the, connectivity side of it too much. It's not my area of expertise, but, as a pure play CTV and media business, it does start to look way more attractive because you can get more insight and you can garner more transparency out of them and competitive even, right? It still puts them in the same conversations with so many other different platforms and publishers that are out there. So it's looking much more positive than anything.
Is there anyone that you think isn't being talked about that should be?
It's funny because if you can, and that kind of does bleed into the next topic, it's because you looked at somebody like Roku, who is so powerful and strong in the industry, they almost seemed to be overlooked despite how strong their assets were compared to the Amazons and the Netflixes of the world. So
why do you think that was? Why do you think that Roku was overlooked?
I think there's one major reason is because Amazon switched everybody over to an ad-supported model basically overnight. And it created this scenario where now Amazon has to be part of the ad buying or the CTV buying journey. You have Thursday Night Football, you have top tier programming, you have massive distribution, and you have data. Forget a double edge. It's all edges of the sword, right? It's a mace at this point. So it becomes the topic du jour. And while Roku is still very strong, the growth story swells around Amazon. And while, that growth story came at the expense of somebody like a Trade Desk and other types of players that are out there, it just casts a very, very large shadow on so many of the other players that are out there. And while some may have slept on Roku, Fox clearly didn't. And they understood the distribution points and they understood the data and they understood the household graph, which is really powerful and strong. It's just some of these titans of industry just got too big very quickly.
I'm just going to list off a few of the names that are actually impacted by Fox and Roku getting together. And I'm probably going to miss a few. So you're going to have to help me out, right? We've got Fox proper and everything that comes under that umbrella. We've got FS1. We've got the Fox One app. We've got Tubi. We've got Roku TV. We've got Roku Channel. We've got Friendly TV. And we've got Howdy. I know that I missed something in there. But holy moly, that's a ton. Like, I know that there's we even covered the pure attention share that Fox and Roku getting together, more than 10% of attention share. That's great. But more interestingly is the actual business infrastructure impact that all of those things touch. Do you have a take on exactly how that comes together?
Leadership. And I think the key to a lot of this ends up becoming, we bought this asset, we sort of know how it's used, and you don't want to mess that up. And that becomes a situation of, we don't want to take resources away from that. We want to amplify the resources that are already working and that are there. So in essence, it becomes a question of, is Fox's leadership going to understand what they bought and then execute accordingly? Because you don't want to diminish any of the efforts that they're doing on that side. You want to create as much of a vacuum as possible for these ad dollars to come in and execute. And that comes across all of the properties that you just mentioned. It comes across the fact that you have audience segmentation, comes across that you have premium and free ad supported inventory, not to mention sports. What the gold tier of all
Yes,
inventory
sports.
It's understanding and leveraging that content across the distribution point, which is Roku.
It's good.
And the distribution point can't be messed with, right? So it takes leadership to understand that, hey, that's our point to really push so much of this good content through, and the ad dollars will start to materialize. And not to mention, you have almost like a one-stop shop for CTV to be really, really good. And I would argue punch above their weight, right? So really get into the conversations of like, hey, I just listed off so many of the great things that Amazon does. However, the Fox Roku combination gets so much of what I'm aiming to do, maybe at competitive CPMs at that point, but it's doing so much of what I need it to do to be competitive against somebody like an Amazon or a Netflix or a Disney, ESPN, Hulu, etc. So I think it puts them in such a great competitive advantage. It comes down to whether or not leadership knows how to deploy this the right way. And yeah, like, will there be like sales efforts that can be combined? I think there will be. I think there has to be on those efforts, and those seasoned Fox sales teams probably have a ton more to offer in a lot of different ways, since it's skirting, linear and on the streaming side. So there's probably a lot of good things that can be learned in either instance. I don't know if that comes at the expense of, jobs or anything, but there's definitely insights to leverage from both sides of the equation that can put you in a really powerful position.
And that seems like the bridge to ultimately cross, which is, hey, we've got all of these great technology assets, really smart teams that understand that piece of the business. Then we have our traditional media arm, which understands that. Can we merge those two things here to really unlock that value? I've got a visual that I was just working on actually before we jumped on here that I wanted to share. So what Looper looks at essentially the shelf space value on CTV. And I asked them, hey, could you give us a slice just for the WNBA across connected TV in Q2? And Roku for the WNBA generated, now this is quantifiable shelf space, right? How it shows up on the home screen, eyeballs, addressable attention. $23 million in addressable attention generated on Roku TV. The next closest, I've got the numbers here. Next closest, Apple TV, 513,000. Xfinity, 297,000. Like, we're talking about completely different stratospheres when we talk about the scale and the impact of a Roku.
So magnitude, right? Like
orders of magnitude. And you can see it. You can see it in the record viewership numbers. WNBA and professional women's sports in general doing a really great job of I think finding distribution in a way that makes sense for their growing leagues, and that story continues to evolve. So, Justin, I'm sure that we've got a part 2 in our near future here. How do folks get in touch if they want to learn more about yourself, BWG, what you're covering?
Please do check out BWG Global's website. We're happy to take any inquiries there. I am way too active on LinkedIn. So Justin Ruiss on LinkedIn, you can definitely find me there. I'm not really much of like a socials guy. So you can, definitely reach out to me via the professional social network known as LinkedIn. Certainly reach out on our website. We have information there. If you want to join any of the forums, we have ways and forms to sign up so that you can be part of it. And I will have a personal conversation with you if you do, just to get you, acquainted and accustomed to what we do. And I'll talk to anyone. I'll talk to a
awesome.
tree. So.
If you see Justin talking to a tree, just know that he's also a man of his word.
Yes. Also call my wife and tell her that I'm okay.
Do indeed. And we'll include all those contact details except Justin's wife's number in the chat.
Please don't, Sam.
Justin, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Tim.
If you found this conversation to be helpful, please share it with a colleague or a client and start a conversation yourself today. We'll see you next time.